This painting right here is probably one of the best paintings that I've ever done. Or at least it's one of my favourites. And now I'm going to have to do something that might completely destroy it.
It started with a commission request, a pet portrait with a theme. 2 dogs in a warm, cosy environment. And for me, nothing says cosy like a log cabin, open fire, and fluffy blankets. I mean, I modelled my garden area based on that whole vibe.
I've been toying with some ideas for my paintings for a while. I want to try and make them more formful, more like 3D looking, and sometimes colours confuse me a little bit. So I decided that the first layer of this painting was going to be done in black and white.
That way, I can just focus on getting it looking 3D. So that's exactly what I did. I focused on shapes and values and simple details, building the structures of the dogs using black, white, and various mixes of grey oil paint.
Until eventually, I was left with this. My favourite painting. I think this is my favourite painting that I've ever done because I achieved exactly what I wanted out of it. I feel like when I look at this painting, I can just like reach out and touch the dogs. They look 3D, they look formful, they look real. They don't just look like a picture on a 2D canvas. It looks like I can reach my hand in and actually pet these dogs, which is amazing. I don't think I've ever actually been able to achieve that effect in paint. Unfortunately though, now I'm going to have to cover this entire thing in more paint. Which is scary, because I might end up ruining my favourite painting ever. I'm worried that once I start adding the colour, I'm going to lose all of the things that I love about this painting. But I'm just going to have to get stuck in and give it a go.
I'm going to be using a technique called glazing to add the colour. It's thin washes of transparent paint layered on top of that black and white. The idea is that all of those details that I've already painted are still going to show through when I add the colour. And so far, it seems to be working.
I'm actually quite happy with how this is turning out so far, but then I was never too worried about the background. I have, however, noticed quite a big problem. So when I painted the black and white layer, I tried to match everything to my reference photo as closely as possible, so my blacks were as dark as the reference photo and my lights were as light as the reference photo. But now I'm starting to add the colour glazes over the top of that. The colour glazes are making everything that little bit darker. So if I carry on the way that I'm going, I'm just going to make that painting that little bit darker, a little bit too dark, and I think it's going to lose that warm, cosy vibe that I'm going for. And this is now where it starts getting a little bit trickier. So instead of just putting those thin glazes down, I'm going to have to start adding some brighter, more opaque paints. And I'm worried that I'm actually going to start to lose some of the details that I've already put in. Fingers crossed it's not going to be too much of a problem, and really the alternative is I just have to repaint the entire painting but in colour rather than doing the glazes. I hope it doesn't come to that, so fingers crossed I don't ruin this painting.
Thankfully, the first dog feels pretty straightforward. It's quite a grey, sort of silvery looking dog anyway, so all I really need to do is add a little bit of colour to the grey and then add some lights to show the reflections of the light from the fire and some blues for the reflections of the cooler light coming from the windows. This is where things started getting a little bit trickier. Because I was using such transparent paint over the top of grey, that grey still showed through a little bit. So I had to work a lot harder with this dog to get rid of that grey and add the actual colours that it was. I had to play around with the paint a lot more to get the dog looking saturated and alive rather than just washed out and pale. But after a bit of time and effort and a heck of a lot of paint, I think I started to get somewhere.
And we are done. The finished painting is here, and honestly, I do still really like it. I think it's still got that form, it's still got that 3D, I can reach out and touch it, but now it's also got that warmth and that glow that I originally anticipated in what I wanted this painting to feel like. It feels warm, it feels cozy, and it feels like I can reach out and touch the dogs, which is exactly what I wanted. There's a few things that I would change about this process because there were a few challenges that I encountered along the way, and the main things probably that I would change is I wouldn't paint it in black and white first. I would use a little bit more of a brown and white. The black and white worked great for this dog, which was already kind of grey, but the grey and the white, the black and the white, didn't work as well for this dog. That took a little bit more work to bring to colour. So I think if I'd used a brown and white for the underpainting for this dog, that would have been much better. And I also think the brown and white wouldn't have had an impact on this dog either. So that's something that I'm going to try moving forwards. And also the values thing. So I used a full value range. So I went from my darkest darks to my lightest lights on my reference photo when I was doing the black and white study, or the black and white painting. Whereas I think that actually caused hindrance to the painting. It made everything go darker and it made it harder to bring everything back to light. So I think if I was going to do this again, which I am going to do because I do like this way of painting, it is much quicker and it does produce a more 3D painting. I'm actually going to do that first layer in the monochrome colours. I'm going to do it a lot lighter than I want the finished piece to look like, so that I can use the glazing and the colour layers to bring the values down back to how I want it to actually look. But that is a painting for another video. Now I've got to let this dry and then I can send it off to its new owner. What do you think? Was it better in black and white, or do you prefer it now that it's got the colour? And let me know if you've tried this technique before, if you've got any tips for me, and check out this video here if you'd like to learn a little bit more about this method that I've used. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.